Engine change, and they are in the next heat, so they've got a race with the clock. Let's go to Jim Hendrick down there.
A lot of activity going on right now. Don, let's call in George Johnson. George, what's going on?
I think we destroyed the front end there. We got about 15 minutes to get this other engine in.
Okay, we don't want to hold you up too long, but what happened in that final turn?
That's when the front end let loose.
Oh, that's
we
why.
We just had to baby her across the line. Otherwise, it would have been fun to the finish.
Yeah, you were coming on strong lap by lap.
Yeah, we got a lousy start. We tried to make up for it.
Okay, Don, that's the story.
With the boats way down in the south turn, you see how far and how big this course is. The lineup, Tosti Asti against the Squire Shop. Two hot boats, Executone and U40. Squire Shop, we understand, however, having some slight steering problems. We'll see what happens there. In fact, how does Mickey Riemann plan to challenge Steve Reynolds in the Tosti Asti?
If I have a choice, I'm going to try to go the inside. That's the shortest way around. And generally, the shortest way around is the best way around.
Talking to Mickey Riemann, who figures to be your biggest competition coming up in this next heat, he says he'll take lane one if he can get it. You going to give it to him?
Sure, he's welcome to it. We're interested in finishing, and that's what we want to do to get into the final heat.
Right to the point and succinct. You've heard it from the experts, and here we go now with heat two-way. Slowing way down, all the boats are early. There's the Tosti Asti coming by the U40 with Scott Pierce, and there's Mickey Riemann in the Squire Shop on the outside, so he won't have lane number one as we start the heat. Mickey Riemann on the way outside, Tosti Asti on the inside. In lane three, you see the Executone there on the left of your screen. Scott Pierce in the yellow U40 as they come down into that north turn. Getting a little choppy now as they come into that first intersection, the busiest turn in the country. You see the rooster tail of the Tosti Asti on the right of your screen, but an incredible turn by Steve Reynolds in that brand new boat. That is one of the biggest strengths for this boat. Look at it, clear completely out of the water, but it is a great cornering boat, and that's where it picks up so much speed. Look at this race now for second and third. George Johnson sneaking by Scott Pierce on the inside. Executone Telephones in second place. Third place, Scott Pierce. There's the leader coming into the south third now. Steve Reynolds going after hopefully another 400 points. He picked up a first place in 400 in Heat 1A. The turbine-powered Tosti Asti. First place, Steve Reynolds. After lap number one, Reynolds out of Seattle, Washington. Its owner, Steve Woomer, as well from Seattle. Second and third place, George Johnson, Executone Telephones, and Scott Pierce in the U40, the bright yellow all-aluminum boat. We've had some great racing today, and here's some more for second and third place. And obviously, there are problems for the Squire Shop. Maybe it's the steering that Mickey referred to us earlier. Here, anyway, is the Tosti Asti with Reynolds again, back in first place, cruising along, running well on that very choppy water as that front now begins to come into the Syracuse area, and here on Onondaga Lake, just to the north of Syracuse, New York. Back to the turn. Here's your race, though, in Heat two-way. George Johnson on the outside, Executone Telephones in that brand new Lucero design and built boat. Scott Pierce on the inside. He's keeping George out on his hip. That boat only a couple of years old. Way out in front now, going into the south turn is Tosti Asti. Reynolds in control. As he said earlier, he just wants to finish, get the points, and get into the final heat. And he's doing exactly what he wants to do and his crew wants him to do. The boat running brilliantly with a turbine-powered helicopter turbine engine that's working very well for him. On the outside, pounding away, though, is still George Johnson going against Scott Pierce and the U40. Here's your race again, coming down the main chute. Pierce on the right, Executone Telephones and Johnson on the left. Scott Pierce. By the way, there's your fourth place boat. Again, troubles with Squire Shop. Tosti Asti way out of the lead with Scott Pierce in the U40 on the right of your screen there. Rookie of the Year back in 1981, driving the Oh Boy Oberto. His father, Laird Pierce, is a former hydroplane owner, so it runs in the family. A hydroplane vein, you might say. On the outside, here comes the Executone. Look at him sneaking behind that rooster tail of Scott Pierce in the U40. What a great race with Pierce holding on to lane one and keeping Johnson just to the outside of him. I would have to imagine the Executone has the more power, but Pierce has the position. And Reynolds, in the meantime, scooting along the south turn, completing another lap. He's taking good care of his equipment right now. This is what the Budweiser went through down in Miami. Got a good lead and was able to preserve that engine of the boat, getting ready for the final heat. Right now, we've got a battle of the fittest, you might say, as Scott Pierce holding on to second place against George Johnson and the Executone. Going down the main chute, Scott Pierce, Merlin-powered all-aluminum hull. Second place for Scott. And there's the third place boat right with him, though, is George Johnson in that new Lucero design and built boat. It was built at Kent, Washington, brand new boat. They're still trying to work out the kinks, get used to the new system. There's the massive lead, though, for Steve Reynolds in the Tosti Asti, the turbine-powered hull. The boat never been in water until this year, even though it was a backup boat to the Pay-In Pack a couple of years ago. They took a lot of time, a lot of tender, loving care to put this one together. And boy, it is performing so beautifully here in Onondaga Lake in Syracuse, New York. Steve Reynolds of the Tosti Asti picking up another 400 points as winner of Heat 2A. But half a lap back on the main chute, it's Scott Pierce on the inside in the U-40, the bright yellow boat. On his outside, the Executone Telephone's George Johnson, an offshore racer of the past. Right now, he's got his hands full with a very big hydroplane as they go into the south turn, the final turn here on this, the Heat 2A. Pierce with a position on the inside, Executone Telephones on the outside with the power. Let's see how the finish goes. Executone Telephone by no more than half a sponsor. Here are the numbers now. Tosti Asti with another 400 points up to 800. Executone another second place, a close one. U-40 and Squire Shop with their steering problems, fourth place. Here again is that incredible finish by Executone Telephones and the U-40 on the inside as they come near the finish line. That extra power of that Merlin engine for Executone Telephones and George Johnson paid off, just winning it by, I would say, no more, as I said earlier, than half a sponson. The big blue boat getting a second place, third place to Scott Pierce. Let's go to Jim Hendrick down in the pit.
Well, as you said, Don, an easy win for Tosti Asti, the real battle for second place, and this kid right here, Scott Pierce from Seattle. Hey, you almost had it. It was just a side-by-side, deck-to-deck battle. That was exciting.
Well, we were trying real hard. We're down a little bit on horsepower, so all I could do was push him in the corners, and he'd go by me in the chute, so I figured I'll just keep pushing, and hopefully everything would work out. But he got me just by a tad at the end, but hopefully we'll find some more horsepower and that won't happen again.
You come off that fourth corner, you thought maybe if I could keep him on my hip one more time, I could stall him off.
Well, I knew that he was going to lay in wait and run to the flag. I mean, I'm not stupid, and I understood what he was doing, but I figured I might just get him over to the beach and get him concerned about that, and so that's what I was trying to do. But he's a fine driver, and they have a fine new boat and team, and we're just doing the best we can with what we have.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, a lot of excitement down here in the pits. Up to you, Don.
Jim, excitement and some growing concern for officials. That weather front seems to be approaching, and some gusts are coming with it. More racing in just a moment.